The yard sign. I'm Jonny Torres. Welcome. Hope you're having a great Monday. Judging by the beverages, not only behind the scenes, but in front of us, it's been a little bit of a rough Monday, but thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. As always, lots to talk about today and a full table next to me. So before we get into today's topics, let's go ahead and introduce our guest for today. And I believe this is your first time on the show.
It's my first time on the yard sign.
Oh my God.
What an honor. What an honor.
We've known each other for so long, and it's taken way too long for you to get you on the show. But this is my buddy Travis Horn of Bullhorn Communications, coming to you live from the Bullhorn Bunker. Again, you've been very generous in allowing us to use your space here and all your knickknacks. And,
glad to do it.
Even some of your adult beverages. We couldn't be more grateful.
We may have to start doing we do, what is it, drunk history?
That's right, drunk history, drunk
politics. Now, that's only for people who don't want to run for office again. So if you want to run for office again, Joe, you probably...
Yeah, you might have to sit down.
I don't want to run for office, so...
Neither do I. And then, of course, familiar face here, center chair, Joe Wicker. What's up, buddy?
Nothing much, man. He's trying to get me to wear a tanker's helmet. And
I'm actually going to go on eBay and buy a tanker's helmet for him.
I don't want to have a Dukakis moment. I think I should be immune to that because I was a tank commander.
Sure.
So
that does.
I should be immune to that.
But does anybody look good in a tanker's helmet?
It's tough, man.
And wasn't he also like in a suit? I think when he did it. Or?
No, he was in full Nomex. They put him in a tanker's. They put him in.
I think he'd look great in a tanker's helmet. I'm buying one. I'm going on eBay
tonight. But isn't that incredible? Somebody who had the political career that he did, and that's the only thing anybody remembers about him.
Just because he looks stupid.
That's it.
He was a dude.
The campaign died that moment.
Yeah, and he was out there having such a good time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Willie Horton had a little bit to do with that. Okay, but he didn't look so great in a tanker's helmet.
Yeah.
You look way better because you are a tanker.
Yeah.
And over there on the far end of the table, so that way I don't choke him out, is Anibal David Cabrera.
What have I done?
Who apparently has come across some propaganda that he'd like to promote today.
Yes, the year of the rat.
It's like reading Rainbow over
I
here.
know, it's when the history of Bill Clinton selling out the U.S. to Chinese dollars.
Oh, well.
It's always
fun.
It's an old book I found over there in the stack, right?
Thank you, Travis, for blowing all of that out of the way.
So Anibal's going to start bringing book suggestions,
All
I guess.
money's not good money.
Keep an eye out for Anibal's book club.
He can do it. I was going
coming
to say he
soon.
can do a reading club.
That's right, yeah.
That would be freaking amazing. I'm not going to do it, though.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring up today's topics. And again, plenty to talk about. We're actually going to kick things off with, I guess, the topic of every show for the next few years, which is President Biden. And he had his first press conference after about 61 days,
almost
something days.
64 days, and it's the first time in 100 years that a president has not given a press conference before the time of Biden.
Since the beginning of press conferences.
Since the beginning of press conferences.
Right.
No, we had press conferences back then.
Okay,
I don't know if they called him like,
not on TV though, right?
I don't know if they really called him that. Yeah. I mean, that'd be interesting to find out who kind of did the first official press conference.
Yeah.
It was probably Kennedy or somebody.
Hector, I'm going to need you to get on top of this.
Probably JFK.
Can you pull up the topics for me again one more time?
JFK was much after. I want to say FDR, maybe?
No. You mean televised news conference?
It's not like what we have a press conference.
No, it would have definitely been Ike or Truman
or Tina.
It just would have been a bunch of print reporters, and they're asking questions, getting answers, and then putting it in the paper the next day.
Possibly JFK.
All right, so our second, we've got 5 topics on the bill for today. Vaccine for all. That's right. As we continue to move closer towards herd immunity, we're also inching closer towards a vaccinated community. Of course, that continuing to cause all kinds of problems because, I don't know, apparently the vaccine is racist or something, but, minorities again, why would they have an aversion to a vaccine provided by the government?
Why would you trust what the government says to you?
Never. These
I got
communities
my
have no
second
reason.
shot on Friday. All right.
Yeah, well, but
you didn't
again-
get yours. You're not getting yours.
Oh, so
they're-
you've caved to the man.
I have my card.
To the
I-
U.S.
I-
government
I have my
allowing
card.
them to put a
It's
chip
stamped.
into your blood system.
Yeah. Hey, the
microchip.
army put way worse into my system already. I don't know.
Joe said that before.
Are you holding out?
Well, I got 8 vaccines in one sitting.
Oh, really?
4 in each arm. When I went on active duty, yeah, 4 in each arm.
I
And
thought
2
this
vials
was
of
when
blood.
I thought this was when you got married.
And 2 vials of blood at the same time. Like, there's bam, bam. Let's just get it all done. you know?
Swabbed your cheek,
Yeah.
pulled blood.
And then
Which cheeks?
And then remember the well, you guys wouldn't remember, but you might have saw the news stories when the Army made people after 9/11 do the anthrax vaccinations, and then it was like, people were nervous about it. I think there was some hesitancy, and I think there were actually some court cases too, and they pushed back and were like, no, you're getting it. If you don't get it, you're going to get kicked out of the military, right? And then like a few years later, they were like, oh yeah, my bad. Actually, you don't have to do. We're not going to do those after all.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to have it.
They say they're voluntary now.
Yeah, and now it's like, oh,
They weren't voluntary then.
Yeah, no, it wasn't voluntary. No, it was you get it or you're kicked out.
So fun fact, Hector figured it out. Woodrow Wilson is the first one that did a press conference in 1913.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Then they all had to like scramble to the phone booths, to call it in.
and
to
do
the
like,
middle.
Yeah.
or Morse code.
Yeah, probably from the press, the White House press corps
Woodrow
room.
Wilson.
So, all right, back to the topics. Let's see. So
That wasn't televised. That was on film. That had to be on film. There was no television, obviously.
No, but I mean, it was with the news reporters. With the
we got to get this right.
newspaper
We have to
reporters.
get this right,
Yeah.
Johnny.
We are doing our best to fact check everything is being said.
Thanks for our online fact checkers.
Yeah, well, following a shootout a mass shooting over in Colorado, of course, the liberals, both in the White House and in legislatures all across the country, took the opportunity to start pushing for more gun legislation, despite the fact that Colorado already has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. But hey, who's counting, right? So we'll talk about gun control. Anibal Zadok, we're going to give Anibal a little room to talk about certain Middle East situation that I guess has somewhat cleared up.
Oh, I would love to talk about Middle East politics, but yes, we will be talking
That's the
about
Middle
something
East. I mean-
that's happening in the Middle East
Right.
that has nothing to do with the Middle East.
That's right. And then we're going to wrap it up by bringing it home here to Florida, and a big win looking like for the Florida legislature and the governor as they pass an anti-riot bill. And of course, Democrats try as they might tried to really represent this bill as something it wasn't. I don't think the people really fell for it. Not a lot of pushback other than from the usual suspects. And so we'll pick apart the anti-riot bill, which is going to be one of the major bills coming out of this legislative session. All right, so back to the top. Biden's press conference. I mean, again, it just proves that the guy is struggling cognitively. That he's having trouble putting together full sentences. I mean, is that really what they were? I'm guessing that's what they were afraid of. I mean,
It's a national security threat.
well, and the fact that is he had cheat cards, right? He had cards
Yeah.
with him that
With pictures,
right,
with numbered, circled.
right, which
This
they
is
won't
who-
explain,
This
right?
is who
They
you're
won't.
calling on first. This is
Yeah.
who you're calling on second. I mean, I know when people capture an image of a politician having notes of like the city they're in, the first thing people start doing is calling that out because it seems absurd. But the truth is that politicians on a national level, they are bouncing around, flying from one town to the next. It's
Right.
not unheard of to like kind of lose track of the day and where you might be. So I don't fault them for that. But
In campaign mode.
In campaign
Right.
mode, right? In campaign mode, because you're hitting like 6 cities in a day. Like I get that. Where are we? Where are we right
Sure,
now? You know?
right.
I've
Well,
been
you're
in-
talking to thousands of people a day.
Yeah, you're in the back of a bus having meetings on the phone, and they stop, and it's okay. Get out and meet the crowd. And you're like, I can understand a politician be like, okay, what city are we in?
Right,
You know?
right.
Okay, we're in Akron, Ohio. Okay, got it. You know.
Yeah.
But for Biden, for the president to stand up there and kind of have to have a scheduled. Okay, you're going to call on this person, then call on this person, regardless of what his comments might have been. Trump didn't have to do that. Trump would just shoot from the hip, whatever, And
Which is a talent. I mean, that's been a talent of his for a long time, and it's one of the things that I think helped him get into office. The fact that he rarely had any kind of prepared statement. When he did, you could tell, right? You could tell it was like written for him.
Those were the
and
best speeches.
I mean, he would always have notes. He would have notes, big black Sharpie notes.
Yeah, but nobody had to really brief him on what town he was in. Come on. Biden, I mean, you're worried. He's gaffe prone. He's going to make that mistake. He's just going to make that mistake because he doesn't know what town he's in. He doesn't know if it's Jello pudding day or if it's vanilla or chocolate day at the home.
But I would love to see the schedule of his week and figuring out if it is like, okay, Tuesday they get pudding. And
I'm pretty sure nap time is on there.
Jello.
So
Jello.
the question then, though, with Trump, it wouldn't have mattered who he called on and whether he planned to call on people or not. Trump, wasn't going to get questions given to him in advance to be prepared. Right. We know that. The media's not going to do that. My question is, the fact that Biden was told, or they had a plan as to who to call on by photo so that he would recognize the person. I guess my question is, does that mean that he was given the questions ahead of time and that he was able to sit down and prepare for it, like you would prepare for a debate almost ahead of time?
And that's the bigger question.
Of course.
Who is the individual?
No question.
Who is the individual that's actually writing his points? Is it the president coming up with these conversations in his head? Or is it an aide?
That's a rhetorical question, right?
It's a communication.
So in the past, you would be very confident to know, okay, this is Obama's position. This is Trump's position. This is Clinton's position. When it came to Joe Biden, I didn't believe any of the positions that he was coming after was actually a position that he agreed with. It was very much a blah when it came to all that. And as soon as he was done with the verbiage on the cue card, he just stopped talking, which means that there was no active thought happening in the president's head.
It's one thing to be prepared, and it's one thing to plan for a debate and kind of think to yourself, okay, what might be asked and how do I need to handle that? But you're just doing a press conference. You shouldn't have to have the questions given to you ahead of time. They're going to ask you about what's going on in your administration. They're going to ask you about what's going on in the world. Why do you need to prepare for that?
Look, Joe, they don't call him low energy Biden for nothing, okay? I mean, low energy Joe. Joe is running on low energy.
There's no energy.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, when you talk about just the overall state of health, right? I mean, people are saying that he's obviously doesn't have like a very full schedule, and the thing is what I think, people are going to say to us, those of us who are questioning again his health, that we're being ridiculous, right? But this isn't the first time that the media has covered for a president who is ill.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the left are trying
very far left.
Only
those very strident
they're saying that
Biden
he's fine,
supporters.
right?
I mean,
they're trying to
nobody who's got a brain is saying that there's nothing.
No, but they're trying to cover. They are trying to cover for his health, and I mean, and again, if we look historically, the media has covered, especially for Democrat presidents who have been under serious health conditions. They did it for JFK, they did it for FDR, and so it wouldn't surprise me in the least that the media is going to curry favor, as we know now. NBC, strategically, formatted their narrative to support Biden through the primary to see.
I think you kind of unintentionally bring up a really important point here. In modern history and contemporary history, they haven't.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
But they are now.
Right.
This is. Let's
they
face
haven't
it.
had to. They
haven't had to. Right.
I mean, they really need to step up and
No,
look. I get it. They didn't like Trump, right? You didn't like Trump. Okay, he was a one-term president. You got rid of him, at least for now, until in case my coffee cup comes true. But they're covering for him. I mean, it's pretty clear. So they have to step up and talk about the story.
And you can only carry water for the president for so long before the country starts to really push back on the press. I mean, already you've seen ratings fall off the cliff when it comes to CNN, even Fox News and some of the other sites that are losing hundreds of thousands of viewers because no one believes what's going on anymore. the approval rating for the network channels are completely dropped, and you're seeing that now that people just don't trust because the questions that were asked, because you are the most beloved person in politics, is that the reason why migrant workers are coming to the border?
That was a crazy
Do
question.
you want to run again in 4 years? Is Kamala going to be the next person? Is going to be your VP pick?
Yeah.
I mean, these were just stupid. And then no questions about COVID, which was the most troubling. No questions about COVID, no questions about the economy, which is surprising.
Well, and you would think, I mean, given the fact that, everything so far has gone as planned, that they would try to have some sort of victory lap about it.
Yeah.
But to not even, pound their chests about the vaccines or about the numbers or about.
Because they know they didn't do anything.
No, they
regard to
didn't.
the
I mean,
vaccine.
Fauci admitted that he was basically carrying on the same plan that they'd been working with from the former administration. I mean,
My vaccine that got pumped in my arm on Friday wasn't produced by anyone in the Biden administration.
If this would have happened under Biden or any other Democrat, the media would be pushing out there every single day that the administration got a vaccine from A to Z in under 18 months. Really, under 12 months, I guess.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Under
they
12.
they would have been promoting that and just talking about how it was the greatest thing since going to the moon, right? And they would have been promoting that on the daily. And now, you don't hear anything about it.
Sure.
And Biden then can't really talk about it either because everybody knows
Under 12
that
months.
It happened under. I mean, that event, the Warp Speed Initiative, will probably be looked at when history, we get further down the road and people aren't as emotional about it. I think people will look back and say, wow, that was amazing.
Sure.
And part of that, I give credit to President Trump for being the businessman that he is, because business people look at problems completely different than politicians. And he looked at it like, he just talked to the manufacturers. What would it take for you to be able to do this, and why does it take 12 years to get a drug approved? And they just told him the truth. Well, because we can't spend the money to make things if we don't know it's going to work.
Right.
And what does Trump do? He says, so you're telling me that if we guarantee that we'll just cover the cost, you're good? And they're like, yeah, we'll make millions and billions of doses if we're not going to lose money.
It's about 80%.
I hope it works, though.
80% of the timeline.
I do have some soreness at the injection site, I must say.
But that's the issue. But the issue with why it costs so much money is because they have to do the different phase trials, and manufacturers aren't going to produce 100 million doses of something until they know for sure that it works, right?
Right.
So that's why it takes so long. And Trump basically just said, forget all that. We'll cover the cost. Just make it. And it worked. And so they were like, cool. So they were able to produce while they were still validating the data.
Yeah.
And when the data came back good, 95% or better, they're like, all right, we're ready to roll. And so the vaccine was already out.
Oh, yeah.
So
And
unintentionally,
Trump deserves some credit for that.
we kind of rolled right into our second topic, which was vaccine for all. And again, even
I'm
here
your
in the
guinea
state
pig.
of Florida,
Am I the only one at the table who's gotten the
I
vaccine?
think so.
Are you the
Okay.
only American on this table that decided to give into
Hey man, vaccines,
government
they saved a lot of lives.
Where's
They
your
saved a lot of lives.
Where's your paper?
I stuck them in my passport. I should have brought them with me today. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh, so you're also supporting the passport vaccine? Or the
No,
vaccine
but I'm just
passport.
figured it would be convenient to
I
stick it in
feel
there.
that's
I love
very
to travel.
un-American.
Jeez.
So,
Like I said, I'm experiencing some soreness at the injection site. I have no other symptoms. I did take some NyQuil on Friday night just to make sure.
We can't go one show without referencing the producers on this TV show. I will say this. So Hector is on fire right now. He's making comments that Hector's saying that Tim Dillon said that the Biden administration is like America coming off of a drug binge called Donald Trump, is now characterizing the Democratic form like that. He's also saying that this is the Democrats' equivalent to Gerald Ford. I'm not that versed in Gerald Ford.
Remember Gerald Ford had a slip? He had a slip and
oh yeah, a couple, I think.
And then Saturday Night Live made fun of him for. Didn't Chevy Chase play Gerald Ford?
Yeah.
And they spent months just
I've always had this
constantly tripping.
We definitely were not alive.
No,
I've had this theory that
Chevy Chase was on SNL.
any politician that falls, I've had this theory for many
not
years.
40.
Any politician that falls, has a serious fall like that, is never reelected. Can you think of any?
Really?
There was the congressman from
Is
New
that
York.
one of
What
the-
was his?
Is that one of those weird
political?
political?
Maybe your
factoids?
Facebook followers can help us sort this out.
But then Clinton.
He never fell. He never fell down on camera.
No, I'm thinking of Hillary. Remember that one when
She
Hillary
fell down. She didn't get elected.
Yeah.
She was wearing a secret leg brace or something.
That wasn't
Actually,
even
I
her.
think
That wasn't
George
even
Senior
her.
fell. I think George Senior fell at one point. So there was the
He
congressman
threw up in Japan.
from New York.
Right,
Oh,
that was-
that's bad.
that
That's
was
probably like
bad.
a double
Threw up in
whammy.
Japan.
You throw up on
Yeah,
camera,
like
you're
stomach
not
flu
going
or
anywhere.
something.
Right.
No, if anyone can find a politician who had a serious fall on camera,
I'm sure Hector's on it.
yeah, get on that, Hector. So
Trump had a slip. He didn't have a fall.
he never fell.
I mean, and
it's
I'll
a fall down.
I'll tell you though, those
Biden was a fall
those
down.
metal ramps like that he was on at the
Right.
academy. If you've ever been on one of those metal ramps, they're actually kind of
Yeah,
Quit being an
especially if they're
apologist.
wet or-
He's
Yeah.
an apologist for Biden over here.
no, not for Biden. That was Trump that had the slip on the
Right.
ramp.
This coming from the man that got the injection in his arm.
So, well, now DeSantis, of course, announced that anybody 40 and up is going to be eligible as of this week to
we
get
can't
the
get it
vaccine.
yet.
So well, I
probably
can.
not.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome.
But
That's a testimony to how many locations we have, because now you've got like hundreds of CVS, hundreds of Walgreens.
Sure.
I got it at the VA. You don't want to get it?
Sites, you got the VA, you got the pop-up sites, you've got.
well, and to that note, I mean, there was that presser.
I'm not going to get a vaccine if all of my clients who are seniors
Yeah.
and if all my employees who work with them haven't gotten it. So.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, personally, I don't see the need for me to get it, you know, and I had coronavirus over the summer, you know what I mean, and
You did. I forgot about that.
yeah, and then I had pretty minimal symptoms.
Yeah.
But again, at this point, I don't know. I just don't see. When you look at the math or the science, you know, at the rate of the mortality rate, at the infection rate,
So-
it's just why.
So now I have to go to my medical history here. You know, I've actually had chronic bronchitis. I've had pneumonia a couple times.
So you're high risk.
I've got some places in my lungs that the VA, you know, periodically I do some CAT scans, keep track of. So, you know, putting it out there, I've kind of been in a little bit of a risk group. So, you know, they texted, burning poo probably in the Middle East. I burned a little poo poo in the Middle East, and that's kind of a risk factor. But in the military, for Uncle Sam, you got to do something with number 2.
Again, another real topic in the Middle East that we will not be talking about
Yeah,
today.
for those that don't know, that's what happens.
But literally, the VA,
Austere environments, you burn it.
they called.
Put
They
diesel
actually
fuel on it,
texted.
burn it.
They texted and said, "Hey, we've got it available. We got vaccine available. Do you want it?" I said, "Sure."
So was that
Right.
because they just had extra, or was that come make an appointment like you're?
No, it
you're
was like,
up,
I mean, literally,
your
and
number's
I went
up?
in there, and there were people a lot younger than me.
Oh,
Vets
okay.
a lot younger than me.
Yeah, because I've even heard of some instances where people would call either a Publix or a pharmacy before they closed and said, "Hey, do you guys have any no-shows basically for the vaccine?" And if they did, then it didn't matter if you met the criteria or not; they'd let you have it because the vaccine expired.
That's for the ones that had to be kept cold, right?
Sure.
So that was
Pfizer.
for
So
the
they
Pfizer.
had to actually. So when I went to get my shot, they were empty, and we had to wait on them to bring it from the pharmacy like fresh. And my nurse hadn't had a shot yet. I was really a little surprised, but she honestly kind of admitted to me that she was doing her own little study of how she said, "I'm kind of watching how this is going," and I'm leaning towards the Pfizer vaccine that you got. But yeah, she gave me my second
That's
shot,
what's
and
interesting.
she hasn't had it yet.
I saw on a page that I follow with a bunch of clinicians where they said the problem they're having with people getting the vaccine is with their employees. I think there was this one hospital that they only had like 37% acceptance rate or something. I'm like, that's
At a
odd.
hospital.
Yeah, but these are also people that deal with this on
That
a
is
day in
odd.
and day
Like,
out.
why are they, maybe
So-
they all got COVID or something.
No,
already.
I wouldn't-
Well, I mean, maybe they already.
Yeah,
Many of them got it. and so
Honestly,
they just,
I know a lot of medical
know?
professions that are not going to get the vaccine until well into
I don't understand
this
why,
year,
yeah.
and that's their personal decision. If they don't feel comfortable with it and they want to see other ones come out with a higher effective rate, then I'm okay with that. The wife and I are not going to get the shot until well into probably this year. That's if we're even going to get the shot. We haven't made that decision yet, but
Right.
I like how the governor is placing it. that anyone that wants a shot can get a shot, but it's not going to be mandatory. I think that's a phenomenal way of really dealing with this because, again, as more people get comfortable, more people will take it. And if Floridians are willing to do it, then let them do it. I don't see why.
This isn't going to be a mandate. Yeah, that was
Well,
never
no,
really.
if it's a travel situation where you have to be able to have the vaccine to get into an airport or
it
airplane,
could make it more convenient.
Laura
I don't
says
think
the
they're
National Guard's still active all over.
No, keep on reading
state.
down.
Oh, okay.
Well, the thing is, too, is again going back to one of the issues that I hinted at earlier is that you have again these minority communities that are significantly are at a much lower adoption rate of the vaccine, than your general population, because again they have an aversion. There's all kinds of reasons for it, right? But what irks me is when Democrats try to make it a race issue, as they do everything, because again there are plenty of stations. As you said, there are plenty of locations. There's plenty of places where they can go to get the vaccine. They're not being turned away. And the simple fact is that there needs to be, and it's starting to turn. Like there was Magic Johnson and a couple other, I think basketball players or something, did like public service announcements.
Yeah.
Bay News 9 here locally did a huge thing on it this past week in trying to, again, provide some information and a little bit of I don't know, comfort maybe,
Well, the
or
Democrats
or
are trying
confidence.
they're trying to score political points in every way they can, and so like with DeSantis, because Florida's doing well, right? So
Yeah.
where can they find something negative to pick
Right.
at, right? They tried to say that a vaccination event that he held, I think down in Sarasota County,
Lakewood Ranch area,
okay,
yeah.
tried to say that he was providing the vaccine for his wealthy donors
Sure.
or something like that. And I think in one of the press conferences, he's like, listen, they requested, they asked if the Department of Health would set up a pop-up site or whatever, and
Yeah.
they did it. And we're going to do it in here. We're going to do it there. And we're going to do it. And if you want it, ask for it.
Well,
the
and
Department
it
of
just
Health
so
will do
happened
it.
that this community, it would be like Sun City Center,
Yeah,
here
getting together
in
and
Hillsborough
saying,
County,
hey,
and again, so it's predominantly a senior community,
Right.
predominantly a wealthy or upper middle class community. And so of course, they want to put everybody into a box, and they tried to do that with that particular event. And now what made it worse, was that there was some text conversations that were caught in, in sunshine laws, between a county commissioner and somebody else, saying that, oh, this is going to be great for the governor's reelection. But again, that's just
Which
general
was probably
talk.
just one of those.
That's
Yeah, I
just,
mean, it's one of those things you just say.
Yeah,
and then,
we say stuff like that all the time.
that's-
Correct.
yeah, that's- I
and-
thought you were going to say something a lot worse.
But the beauty of this is how the governor's handling these press conferences.
Oh, yeah.
He's not backing
He's
down.
punching back.
He's as
He's punching
aggressive
back.
as ever
Right.
before, and you want to see that with the leader.
But he
that
acts annoyed. He kind of acts like he's annoyed with the whole
But wouldn't
thing.
you be annoyed if they're calling you
Oh,
a
I-
racist?
No, I
that I
imagine
would
he's
be annoyed. And so because of that, I think he's showing the right demeanor when it comes to, no, you're only asking this because you want to try to get a got me question, or you're trying to make me look bad, when really what we're trying to do is trying to get as many senior citizens vaccinated as possible.
I just think that he's trying to do what Trump does with the media, which I'm not disagreeing that push back, but I just don't know if it comes off as well. I don't know.
No, actually, I think it comes
nothing
off-
negative. Yeah,
I think it comes off better.
I think it
because-
comes
I'm
off
with
so
you
much
on-
better.
I'm with you
Well,
on
I
that.
mean, he's an attorney. He's an
okay.
Ivy League attorney, and the fact
Yeah.
is that
he's usually smarter than everybody asking him questions. I mean,
well,
that's
and,
obvious.
And
but-
he's going to come if he's going to push back. He's going to push back with facts. He's going to push back with the reasons why. Right?
Yeah.
He's not simply just canceling them and saying, oh well,
Okay.
you
So
know, you're fake
saying-
news or
saying-
you're lying
saying
or
his response is better because he doesn't then go on with like the personal.
yeah, it's
the
right.
personal
It's not
attack
a
and the-
personal attack. He's
the-
literally pushing back with facts. So
Whereas
when
Trump would say, "Oh, that's because you come from a failed
Right.
network, a news network." But like he doesn't.
right, well, you have
he
this
would
one
criticize
reporter.
the network. Well, of course you said that. Look who you work for. Like Trump
Exactly.
would just bash.
But that's what you.
their-
But that's
their
what you
employer.
want in someone that might be running in 2024. Someone that can
Right.
fight just as aggressively as Trump, but have the tact to be able to do it without getting the rest of the population upset because they made a comment about some woman's lips or things like that.
He doesn't have the showmanship, obviously,
Correct.
that Trump has. But I think it has encouraged him to push back, maybe
Yeah.
harder than most Republicans would have pushed back against the president previously. I mean, there's that clip that went viral when the woman asked him, "Oh, is the reason that Publix got the contract to distribute the vaccine because that they're a major donor to your campaign?" And he goes, "No, actually, CVS and Walgreens and they all got the contract before Publix ever did."
Right.
And so that's what I'm talking about. He's getting a lot better at not only pushing back, but pushing back with the facts, that are going to be able to cancel out those reporters who are just looking for a narrative to make him look bad.
So the comment section is actually asking, what local channel do you guys watch or think is a pro DeSantis channel? So Hector thinks it's Fox 13 News. That's pro DeSantis. Do you think of any other anchors or TV shows locally?
Look, I know people think it's crazy, especially having a show like this, but I don't watch TV
Not
news.
local.
I don't watch
locally,
local,
I don't watch anything
national.
I do.
don't watch,
I do. I'm going to recuse myself on this one.
No, I just don't. And even talk radio, I mean, which I used to love, and I came from radio. I don't because first of all, it's all commentary. It's all and so and even on the news of the day, the stuff that we talk about here. Okay, I'll go and I'll read 2 or 3 different sources about that same event, so that you can find some sort of middle ground, right? Because even if you're watching Fox News, then go and watch it on MSNBC or go watch it on CNN, so you can find some of that middle ground, and you're going to get the facts because you're going to see where the connections are in the way that both sides report it.
We have to draw some distinctions here. So I work a lot, obviously, with local television and local radio. And there's there are great local reporters on the television and radio side. So I don't know that we have to try to figure out whether they're pro DeSantis, or pro anyone else, pro the other side.
Are they just fair?
I feel like a lot of them are fair locally. At the national level, obviously that nexus changes a little bit. But no, I work with a lot of those folks locally, and on the radio side, I've got some great friends in local radio doing some really great shows, and they do a lot of research and do a lot of prep. So.
Well, but see, at least like Bay News 9 will have a Republican commentator and a Democrat.
They
now,
take the balance.
Yeah, at least now it's an actual Republican commentator versus a guy who just bashed Republicans constantly.
For me, I like print.
Who are you talking about? No comment.
I'm enjoying the Miami. I'm enjoying some of the outlets from Miami. I'm enjoying the Orlando Sentinel, even though I think it does lean left. When you see them talking about the governor, they have to give the governor praises. Every single time, that's how it is. Yes. The Tampa Bay Times, a hit or miss when it comes to their commentary. I cannot stand. I love the article, like the catching verbiage that they put in the top of the link, and then you read through the comments and they're like, "What are you talking about? This is so misleading." But I love the comment section.
Yeah, but
in
the Orlando Sentinel specifically, and I don't know the guy's name, but they have a guy who's specific. I'm pretty sure his job is just to hate on Republicans.
Yeah, Maxwell.
Every single. Yeah, I think so. I mean,
they don't call it a flannel for nothing.
But all right, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. So we talked about Biden. We talked about the vaccine. And so we're going to go ahead and touch on gun control. We have 2 veterans here, which, I know this is one of Joe's favorite topics.
It's just annoying.
I just don't need my blood pressure going that high on a Monday night. You know what I mean?
And again, this is where you see a lot of the interesting dynamics of our country, because you'll have Democrats who are very pro-gun control. I'm sorry, they're very pro-Second Amendment.
Second Amendment, right.
And yet they're also very much liberal. And so, again, they're going to take every opportunity, right? You got Feinstein, who's trying to pass the assault weapons ban again. And
she doesn't even know what room she's in.
Hold on, though. What those pro-Second Amendment Democrats need to know is they're aiding and abetting the erosion of our rights. And Joe Manchin, come on, West Virginia. Please. He's working right along with the left. He's going to throw you over the side. They need to get rid of him. Yeah. They should have gotten rid of him last time. I think
there's a lot of people in this country that, they're reasonable people. They're not like anti, people having guns for self, because they understand the importance of it. But they're not like super into it, maybe, There's a lot of people in this country, I think, that they believe that if there's a genuine measure that can be taken, that some of these measures that people throw out, like certain weapons or magazines or background check, this, that, and the other, I think there's a lot of people in this country that believe that, well, if that would solve something, then that seems like it would be reasonable, and we'd be able to make that, that sacrifice or that compromise, right? The problem is that what those reasonable people in the middle of the issue don't understand is that all of that's basically already happening. So you take a state like Colorado, they'll say, well, we need universal backup. Colorado has that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The crazy guy that just shot up the place, he bought that weapon legally. He went through every process that Colorado has. He went through a background check and he passed it. Okay. They already have waiting periods. They already have limitations on types of weapons. They have all sorts of things going on in Colorado already. Yeah. Just like many other states have.
Which as that story began to unfold, it's funny how quickly it got quieter. Because he didn't fit the mold that they thought he was.
What was his name? What's the shooter's name?
I'm not gonna destroy the name. But no, the moment the name sounded not like Smith, then you knew. Okay, I don't even want to go there with them. But the moment
it certainly didn't fit the angry white guy narrative.
Okay, let's just say that. And again, you really get.
Somebody
you get
posted.
upset.
I think it might have been you, Joe, on Facebook, which is basically the faces of these mass shootings right across the country. Yeah. And I mean it's as diverse as the city of Tampa. Yeah. And yet they're trying to make it out to be.
There is something to do when you look at mental health and if you break down demographics of people and who becomes schizophrenic. Okay, you can associate some of that with white people, right? Mm-hmm. Those things usually take place in their 20s and 30s. If you're going to become schizophrenic and go crazy, it usually happens like in that time period. Okay. And there are certain demographics that appear to be afflicted by that more than others. But to your point, though, when you look at mass shootings as a whole, there's all sorts of people that go nuts and do these things for a few different reasons or whatever, whether it's suicide by cop or just taking out a family because they're of domestic issues or stuff like this where they want to.
Look, I don't know that there's any data on race-based mental health as far as that goes. I don't believe. Well, no, I mean as far as white people have a more propensity for no-go.
That's the genesis of the stereotype, and that's why what you see is people jumping online very quickly and saying, "Oh, a guy just shot up the place. Watch, it's probably going to be some white dude, right?" And that's what they assume. And then when it doesn't turn out to be that. Like
anyone who's fooling themselves. Look, it's a drive to take guns away from Americans. Okay, that's what the left wants, right? Let's just accept that. That is a premise. Could someone really tell me that's not what they're after?
See, here's the thing. I said what I did about the reasonable group of Americans that are not really on the issue one way or the other.
They're not partisans.
They're not super partisan, and they would be willing to do something if they thought it would matter, right? But here's the truth of it, though. The only way to get to a solution to mass shootings, you actually only have two options. Either you're going to have more law-abiding citizens responsibly carrying weapons, okay, or and get rid of this insanity of gun-free zones and signs that say no guns here, because all you're doing is making yourself a target. So you're either going to have that, or you're going to have a 100% total and complete ban. That's it. I mean, there's not a lot of mass shootings in North Korea that's not occurring except for the government.
I wish that one person,
because they have no weapons.
I wish that one person on the scene in Colorado had a firearm and been able to.
And we've seen what's happened in the UK, where it's basically just evolved to whatever the next weapon is.
Yes, they have a crazy amount of knife. And I actually posted some FBI data about that more people are killed via knives, more people are killed via hands, fists.
Oh yeah.
More people are killed via handguns, overwhelming handguns, right? Why is that? Because you can conceal it, right? Rifles are a smaller subset of all weapons used, and on top of that, AR-15s are even smaller portion of that.
But it doesn't matter what the percentage is because what people are seeing is that the media overhypes what's happening and overblows the situation on hand, and they automatically go, well, we need to fix this somehow, some way. And every time they talk about getting rid of AR-15s, or 40, whatever they're called. I'm not a gun person. I completely believe in everyone having the right to
I'm
do
taking this
to
guy to the
choose.
range. Did I tell you I'm taking him to
I've
the
been
range
to ranges
next
before.
week?
I don't have an issue with that at all. Vegas was so much fun
We're either
with a legit semi-automatic.
We're either going to have guns.
He's over here bagging on me for the vaccine,
either
and I got to take him to the gun range.
We're either going to have guns or we're not. And what the Democrats aren't telling you is that where they really want to go is to zero.
Sure.
That's
yeah.
really what
I
they
wish
want.
they'd be honest.
And
They're never
not
honest.
being
They're never
honest
gonna be
about it.
honest. They're
Because
never
when
gonna
you
be
say common sense, we just need common sense gun. Okay, like
Say, that
what?
means take away everybody's
like what?
guns.
Like background checks. Okay, well they had that in Colorado.
I love
like
it.
What? Well, we want limitations on magazines. Okay, well this dude had 5 magazines
Yeah.
or whatever. So
Nothing's
what
gonna
difference did
happen.
that make?
Sure.
It doesn't matter.
Well, even the bump stock thing got,
And the courts overruled
unconstitutional.
that. I mean,
That was by
it's-
one circuit, so I expect that'll go up to the
Yeah.
Supreme
I mean,
Court.
it's
So
just,
we have a Supreme Court that
they're
will
not
hold,
being
that will hold the
honest
line.
about
Well,
it.
never count on our Supreme Court. Come on. Seriously, John
Yeah,
Roberts
no,
proved
it's
that
true.
with Obamacare, right?
yeah.
Well, he's got to strike that down.
No,
What up?
he did
What
what
up?
he. Okay, I'm not going to.
No, he's a
Yeah, let's not go down
Total
that.
sellout.
Also,
I will.
this
oh.
guy, when you looked at his Facebook, this recent shooter in Colorado, when you looked at his Facebook, of course, he was far left, hated Trump, anti-Trump immigration policies, things like that, and supposedly was thinking about going to like a Trump event, and showing out.
That'd be a
right?
wrong move.
He'd get shot in a heartbeat.
And chooses what? Chooses a location. Some question that it had a kosher deli in it and all that. I don't know. I'm not going
Right.
to get into that. But whether it's religiously motivated, we'll never know, right? Because
Sure.
they're not going to pursue it. But instead, where do these things happen? They happen in places where they put signs up that say, "Hey, we have no weapons." They happen in vulnerable locations,
Right.
and that's just
Because they
it.
know that they're not going to get
Because
put.
they know
yeah.
that it's an easy target. Criminals don't look to get in. Typically, criminals are not looking to get into a gunfight. They're looking for the weakest target, whether they plan to rob you and take your money and they want to get away, or whether they plan to be suicide by cop. I mean,
Sure.
either way it goes, they pick vulnerable targets. So the lesson is, don't make yourself a vulnerable target. And if you are a vulnerable target, for whatever reason, don't put signs up saying that you are. Don't advertise yourself
Right.
as such. Be smart, and hopefully, you can lawfully possess a weapon and know it and know how to use it. Be trained on it.
But we're never going to
familiar
have
with it.
this real
But if
conversation.
not,
We're never going to have this.
publicize it.
We're never going to have this real conversation unless one, Democrats actually tell you what their real end game is,
Which
and
is
two,
zero guns.
and two,
That's what they
two Republicans and other patriots of America actually step up and say, no, we cannot continue to attack the Second Amendment because what you're telling us is lies. There's a reason why they're not going to. This is not going to be national news anymore because it doesn't fit the mold that they're looking for. They'll
Well, hey-
wait until they
Well,
find
they
something.
also throw out statistics showing that America's like this violent country. Here's the irony of that, though. When you pull out the cities, just cities, not even states, when you pull out just small cities that have massive gun regulation, tight gun restrictions, when you actually remove out like 5 or 6 of those cities, America plummets to like the safest country in the world.
Right.
And yet we have something like
Yeah, you take out New York,
750 million
Chicago, LA,
something like
you're
700
pretty safe.
guns. Yeah, but you take out just a few cities, and America is the safest country in the whole
Right.
world.
Yeah.
And yet we have probably the most guns of any nation owned by private citizens.
As
Sure.
we should.
But for those that
think
are,
Canada-
Those are the guns we know of.
Isn't
Yeah.
Canada?
Yeah.
I thought Canada was like close, or
No.
more, or
they don't even have.
And
No.
Joe Biden wants us all to
They
have
do.
shotguns.
oh yeah,
They probably have a high per capita just because of the way people live out.
Right,
in
yeah,
I
the-
doubt there are any
Yeah.
guns in Quebec.
Hey,
But-
Joe wants us all to have a shotgun. I thought you were supposed to go
Yeah,
with your.
Joe
I
Biden-
thought you were
just-
supposed to go with your.
Joe
stimulus.
Biden-
should all get-
Joe Biden's advice was literally commit a felony. Just go out and shoot a couple blasts in the air and. boom,
Isn't that
boom,
what you were
and then
supposed to do with your
and then
stimulus
they'll-
money?
and-
Accidentally shoot your wife.
Meanwhile, gun owners, okay, so non-gun owners are out there. Yeah, just shoot them in the leg.
Take your
blast them-
stimmy check
blast
and
them
buy
up
a
in the sky.
shotgun.
And meanwhile, gun owners are like, no, you don't just shoot your guns up in the air. What goes up must come down.
Right.
That's how you kill people.
I'm gonna need you to stop with this
Yeah, what do we-
logic conversation.
Gun owners are
I
like,
know.
calm down. That's not what you do with a weapon.
Let's
Yeah.
do a range night.
Again,
version of
not the
the
Middle
I would
East.
love a
How about a range
They
night
love shooting
version
their guns up in the
yard
air.
Oh,
sign.
dude, they'll
Oh,
have
gosh.
15 people die in a night. You know?
Oh, my
don't,
God.
don't let Iraq beat Iran in a
Right.
soccer match. I mean, there's going to be like 40, like more people will die that night from bullets
Accidental,
flying
right,
than-
yeah.
than any
Oh, yeah.
conflict in the
Yeah.
country. No, it's true.
It's true. That's why I was laughing.
I
It
was in
true.
a dining.
It's insane.
I was
but-
in a dining facility in Iraq, just south of Baghdad, having a late dinner. I think we had just gotten off mission or whatever,
Right.
and there was a hockey game, and a round came in through the roof,
Oh, wow.
hit the ground next to a dude that was sitting at the next table over. It hit the ground and ricocheted and went up against the wall, and that dude didn't even miss a beat. He looked up and he was like, I guess I'll live another day. And he went back to eating, and he went right back to eating. And the rest of us at the table that saw it, we were like, bro, you almost got hit in the head, you know.
Did you sleep in your M1 that night? Did you go to sleep
Well,
in your
we
tank
had
that night?
Humvees then,
Oh.
but
Oh.
no. Yeah, we had Humvees then.
What
But
kind of
the-
tanker are you, man? You had M1. I'd go sleep
but
in the tank.
But the point is that, you know, yeah, there a lot of people are unsafe with guns,
Right.
and actually, lawful gun owning Americans are the safest population when it comes to not only guns, but when it comes to violent crime. They have the lowest rates of violent crime is
Right.
responsible gun owners.
You guys don't understand. Biden is trying to do something and trying to win an award, and that is Gun Seller of the Year.
Well, he
and
just-
as he continues to prop
That was
up,
Obama.
and keep-
That was
that's
Obama.
I know Obama
Right.
got the
Biden
first
might-
award.
he's cranking it up.
Biden might be again.
Honestly, I think if the prices of ammunition came down,
Oh,
I think it would
gosh.
just be gangbusters in the
yeah.
gun industry.
All day, every
Because
day.
right now, all I hear from gun owners is
Yeah,
the cost of
it's
ammunition.
high.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
I mean, apparently it's really bad.
It's
Start
real
reloading.
high.
We'll start
It's real
reloading.
high.
All right. So thank you again for watching the Yard Sign, coming to you live from the Bullhorn Communications bunker. Joining me today, Travis Horn of Bullhorn Communications, Joe Wicker, and Anibal David Cabrera. Again, lots to talk about, but being that we're on the Middle East topic, we're going to throw it to our favorite segment. But before I do that, don't forget to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast over at the Tech Overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. All right. A lot of people love the audio version of the show, and you can get it on all those platforms if you so wish to support our giant tech overlords.
Hector said Biden might even get a A+ from the NRA.
That's right. He should. They should give him an award. So, all right, over to Anibal's Attic it is to talk to us about a little ship that could.
What's the deal with the attic?
Or couldn't.
I don't
What's the
get-
name of
there's
the
an
ship?
Inside joke about Anibals attic. I
This
don't
is
get it.
my
I
time.
don't get it. What it is? Oh,
Well, it's his head, the attic.
the
It's
attic,
his,
got it,
you
okay.
know.
Thanks, Johnny,
I thought you had
for
some
that
home
warm
invasion.
welcome.
I thought
And
you had some
thanks,
home
Joe
invasion.
Wicker, for ruining my entrance.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm here for you, buddy.
Thank you, sir. So this week, I would love to be able to talk about Middle East peace process. I would love to talk about the 117 people that were killed in the streets of Burma. I would love to talk about China, UK, and the United States sanctioning the hell out of each other. And I would love to talk about North Korea shooting 2 ballistic missiles over Japan to remind the world that Kim Jong-un has a small penis. However, this week, we're going to talk about a small ship that couldn't. Because at the end of the day, last Tuesday around 1:30 in the morning, a ship the size of this Empire State Building, a ship larger than the Enterprise A from Star Trek, decided to parallel park itself in the Suez Canal. Now, Johnny, I wouldn't think this would be a big deal whatsoever, even though 12% of international global trade flows through the Suez Canal, 7% of all oil trade flows through the Suez Canal, and about 50 ships the size of the state of Rhode Island are floating through that canal any given time. But decided again to take a break and just not do anything for about 6 days. That costs about 400 ships and about $10 billion a day to stop an economic flow throughout the globe. Now, I enjoyed watching morning shows gossip about this while they're drinking coffee, making it sound like nothing's happening around the world. After all, what else are we going to talk about besides the fact that China is burning Nikes and other clothing from H&M because we decided to sanction them because they don't like it when we talk about their concentration camps of the Uyghurs. But again, who cares about genocide in this world of days? But again, at the end of the day, an excavator the size of a Tonka truck next to that thing decided it couldn't even move it itself, nor could 6 tugboats move anywhere onto it. But you know what moved it, Johnny? The moon. Yes. The high tide yesterday happened twice. Thank God this happened at the end of the month and not the beginning of the month. High tide is the reason why the ship called Evergreen ever field, ever given, I don't really care anymore. Actually was able to lift and move into the direction that's supposed to move. Now, I don't know who's going to get blamed for this. This is the ship that was allegedly piloted by Egyptians, registered in Panama, owned by the Japanese, technically managed by the Germans, chartered by the Taiwanese and captain and crewed by the Indians. No, yes. And cargo from China. But you know what? We'll see whatever happens.
Wow.
I can't wait for England to start suing the pants out of anyone and everyone that's been around this ship. And that's this week's Anibal's Attic.
I was waiting for the moment it was going to get
Wait,
racist.
What'd you say? Did you say no?
I was just, you know.
What did you say? Give me that again. What'd you say?
I
You said no.
no, I
yes?
said
What'd
no,
you said
yes.
No, yeah. Oh, okay.
So the captain and crew are of Indian descent. And that's where the no, yes came
Or
from.
as one of my favorite comedians used to say, Lisa Lampanelli, it was not casino Indians. She would say Slurpee Indians.
Where has she been? I haven't seen her since she married her third black husband.
Oh yeah, no, she's like I don't know. She's into like Broadway stuff now, and so all right. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching this very unique episode of the Yard Sign. Again, thank you, Travis, Joe, Anibal. I think if he doesn't get us kicked off every major platform tonight, we're going to go ahead and close out tonight with what's definitely going to be one of the legacy policies of the DeSantis administration. Certainly one of the biggest parts, one of the biggest pieces of legislation to come out of this legislature, and possibly the most controversial, which is the Anti-Riot Bill, which stemmed from, of course, all the riots and that broke out over the summer, and some that continue to break out in Portland, and how we obviously need to put in additional measures. I mean, we talked about this bill before, right, guys? I mean, a lot of this stuff was redundant. There's already laws in place, to address this sort of thing. Obviously this, I think, maybe just increases some of the penalties for this. But I mean, do you think this really is going to prevent or minimize things like this from happening in the future?
My understanding, yes, it's always been illegal. If it is a constitutionally protected right to be able to peaceably protest and
The right of the people to peaceably assemble.
assemble and
Right.
to seek redress from your government. So no issues there. Protest all you want. Okay. The problem is that they were purposefully, and I understand why, they were trying to have an impact and get people's attention, and they did.
Yeah.
But they were purposefully blocking trade, commerce, other people's freedom of movement.
Travel,
I mean,
yeah.
so
Sure.
people's ability to
Destroying
travel.
businesses.
Destroying business. And now you're talking about, what's the term? False imprisonment or whatever. I mean, like you're blocking people in, and then of course there's the assault on the vehicles, and sometimes the assault on the person. So
You had state attorneys like here in Tampa who decided not to prosecute.
And reasonable people are like, okay, I'm in my car, that person's on foot, I don't want to hit them,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm surrounded now, am I going to be assaulted? And so I think what the need around that legislation, like you said earlier, the Democrats are trying to make it sound like it's a anti-First Amendment bill. No.
Right.
It's clarifying some of the liability associated with your activity. Hey, you want to protest. But when you stand in the road and you purposefully stop people from traveling and you get hit, we don't want to hear any complaining.
Can you all think of any of the strident folks on the left who have, I haven't been watching this issue very closely, but any of the strident folks on the left who've opposed it? Because I'll tell you, I actually questioned our local state attorney on this issue in a public forum when he decided to no prosecute some of the folks that were down at one of those protests or what have you.
Right.
And I busted his chops a little bit. He gave a fair and fairly well nuanced reply. He's certainly gotten better on the stump. And I don't know. I don't know. I felt a little better though after he at least had the guts to answer my question as politically as he may have done.
Right.
Maybe there's just some symbolism to this, saying, "Hey, look, we stand with law enforcement. Let's go ahead."
So are you saying that the state attorney was explaining the non-prosecutions as the result of probably not being able to gain a conviction, and so therefore,
to a degree,
it's like, hey, if I can't get a conviction, we're not going to just go around, charging people.
Well, he was also appealing to his base.
Yeah,
obviously. Let's face it. The state attorney's office in each of the circuits in Florida is a political, office. So, I think there should be some reform overall on that. But that's a whole different topic for a different yard sign.
My understanding is one of the biggest pieces is removing liability, because keep in mind, right? And maybe you know the statutes on this or something, but like typically. The right-of-way goes to pedestrians, right? Mm-hmm. When you're talking about vehicles on roadways, you're supposed to be deferring to the pedestrian.
Under ordinary circumstances.
Right. Vehicles are supposed to defer to the pedestrian, and we always learn that, when, whether it's driving school or just life. You understand that just because a person might be jaywalking doesn't make it okay for you to knock them over. You might have the green light, but you don't just run over people, right? Like everybody understands that. Okay, well, what if it's not one person? What if it's 10? What if it's 50? What if they're not just in front of you, but now they're around your vehicle? What is your responsibility as an individual operating a motor vehicle then?
I really wish I could.
What they're trying to do is say, hey, motor vehicle operator, you're not going to go to jail if you have to get out of there.
I really want a do-over on this one, so I wish I had been better prepared. There is a reasonable. You have to look at whether there's a reasonable apprehension of fear, and I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping. If there's a reason, I have a 2-year-old. Okay. I have a 2-year-old and a wife who I love, and if we're in that vehicle, and if and
a full-size truck, right?
and a pretty big truck, a 4-wheel drive. So, but no, I'm not going to endanger my family, so I wish I had. Well, forgive me on the show prep on this one. I'll do better next time.
In Soho, it was the pharmacist. It was I don't want to say elderly. I think
an older.
She was attacked
female
online.
Pharmacist who just got off work at the CVS on Howard.
That couldn't get home.
And couldn't get home, and
she was getting accosted. She was getting
accosted, and she's like, "What the heck, guys? Like,
Well, that was.
And then they blasted her on social media,
right?
And CVS, if I remember correctly, I don't think CVS really came out in defense of her.
Well, Warren showed up at that protest. Warren showed up at that protest, by the way. Like Andrew Warren did show up.
Yeah.
To his credit, again, he did seem like he was trying to maybe bring the level of I don't know, vitriol down a bit, but he obviously was talking to the folks on the far left.
Will the statute place liability on the cities and towns that allow this? Because I thought there was some stuff that people were trying to file that was going to place liability on localities that are saying, hey, go for it. Basically allowing the place to become lawless.
Right.
People were going to be able to hold them accountable for their injuries or their damage.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm not sure if the bill covers.
I'm going to get you some attorney friends on the show who actually just don't have their law degree over there on the floor. So we'll get you some folks who can look at this issue maybe a little more.
But I think those are the larger conversations that need to be had. Who is getting prosecuted if you're in a situation where you are fearful of your life? What happens when you see that the protesters are getting much more brazen?
I'm glad if there's any protections in this legislation that came out of it that will protect a citizen who is just traveling on their ordinary course of business.
Well, because you saw them start to attack the vehicle in many cases.
I mean, you remember Reginald Denny. I mean, he got drug out. I mean, we need to go back and
people
look at that. So it's a reasonable fear.
I thought that taught everybody a lesson, which is you don't get out of your vehicle in the middle of a riot. You're not going to reason with it.
You're not smashing my head in with a concrete block. I'm gonna gun it.
And the law already supports that if someone breaches your vehicle, I mean, at that point, it's like someone breaching the.
You have to assume that they're there to do you no harm.
You have the ability to defend yourself.
Well, there were even cases of that. There were people that were shooting at some of these protesters because they were trying to get into their vehicles and pull them out, and they were trying to, cry foul over that. But
there was the kid. He was an active duty sergeant, and I think he was delivering pizzas or doing rideshare or something in Texas. And he had a guy who happened to be an Air Force veteran who was a lefty, had an AK-47. I mean,
he was an Air Force veteran.
Yeah, do they have open carry? So he approaches this dude's vehicle with an AK-47. So what does the guy do?
Right.
He shoots and kills him.
I think he had a reasonable apprehension of fear.
You're coming at my car with a rifle. Like, what do you expect me to think?
Yeah.
It's dark. You have an AK.
Yeah, he shot and killed him. And I don't know where we stand on that. I think it all went away. Like, again, it's one of those things.
There was no prosecution.
When there was no narrative, when
it doesn't fit the narrative.
The story, you're like,
story just dies.
You're like, remember that? Yeah, and then you're like, what happened? And you have to go and search because the narrative doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
anyway.
Well, and so it's going to be interesting to see, because obviously it's only a matter of time before there's another sort of outbreak like this, But, what we're seeing is also states and local municipalities not protecting themselves because we're seeing where George Floyd was killed, and I actually had posted a story about this where in Minneapolis, that has now become an autonomous
Yeah,
zone.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I just saw that today.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
it was your story.
Right,
I
and
didn't
so-
even
It's a
realize
no-go
It's
zone?
another
Yeah.
Chaz or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Right, and it's been that way, I guess, for some time.
Yeah.
And it's all as a result of not only defunding the police.
George Floyd Square or something like that.
Yeah,
or it's called
exactly.
something.
And they're controlling who comes and who goes.
Yeah,
And
they have checkpoints that control.
right. So
Crazy.
what's going to be interesting is will this bill be put
Parts
to the
of
test
France.
at some point, or is it kind of a ticking clock and it's just a matter of time? Hopefully not.
They
All right.
destroy their neighborhoods.
I wouldn't
In
be-
that article you posted,
Yeah.
one of the ladies was a business owner, and she happened to be a black woman, and she's a small business owner.
Sure.
And she was like, "Yeah, this is a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
call
because
the cops. I can't get the cops to show up. My customers aren't coming."
right.
And
Well, because I'm
destroying their
sure the
neighborhoods.
local government has told them to back off and to leave them alone,
I wonder how many cops have resigned from that.
just like
that
they did in
department.
D.C.
oh, there were a
It's,
huge amount of
Well, they
cops
had a
that
lot. They had
resign
a
in
Yeah.
bigger cities.
Well, didn't they defund?
Well, now part
and
of
then they had
that.
to reverse themselves.
Well, and part of this bill that we're talking about was also that. It was also preventing local municipalities from defunding
that's
the
right.
police.
If you
Yeah.
defund it,
Yeah. And again, we're already seeing Minneapolis
Crazy.
being one of them, cities that were starting to do that, go back and actually replace that funding because they're realizing, obviously, the side effects or the unintended consequences weren't what they expected. Although anybody with, again, common sense could have told you what was going to happen.
Well, this needed to happen. The governor saw that it was ramping up in that direction
Yeah.
of where people in municipalities and cities that are left-leaning were going to start passing these laws and trying to I mean, there were other cities in Florida that were trying to defund the police.
Right.
And you have to nip that in the bud. You have to nip it in the bud immediately. You have to show that there are consequences for getting out of line and destroying public property, putting people's lives in danger. There's no reason for you to be standing in the middle of Howard and Swan when it's a green light and you think that nothing's going to happen to you. You want to cause mischief and disruptive because your position is not supported by the people.
I assume the roadway is the roadway, and I'm going to drive on it. And so I have always actually advocated that there be definitely some legislative protections for travelers
Right, well, and
who
a
are,
protest is a
rightfully
protest.
traveling
Protest is a
down
protest.
our county and state roads.
I understand the strategy that some of these organizations are using. They're going to upper class and upper middle class neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're not staying in whatever lower class communities, bad areas, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Where some of this rioting you're seeing is taking place. They were taking their protests and going into places like South Tampa.
right.
Davis Island.
Davis
Well,
Island.
because they
Where-
realized
but-
after how many decades that
Yeah,
they were
that wasn't
destroying,
working.
and they were
They're
destroying their own
community.
communities.
What's
Yeah,
the point, right?
Right.
So I understood the strategy. They were like, "We're going to get your attention. We're going to go into the rich folks' neighborhoods." or
Right.
whatever." And I'm just going to say this as a
South
Republican.
Tampa, Hyde Park.
There's a lot of Democrats down there. A lot of people that are that I don't understand why they're Democrats.
Right.
They themselves have benefited from free market principles and whatnot,
Sure.
and they should understand individual liberty. But they love to be these woke, liberals, and they vote Democrat. And now all of a sudden, here the protests come to your neighborhood.
Right.
So get some, and maybe rethink your policies and start voting for Republican state's attorneys. And so on and so forth.
Right, county commissioners,
County
city
commissioners,
councilmen,
all of that.
I mean, because again, in those areas that you were talking about, again, albeit that they're very wealthy, they typically vote very Democrat as well.
Yeah.
And then, again, like they said, the pastor that famously said their chickens came home to roost.
Yeah, yeah.
It's now they've got the.
Those are your Democratic voters.
That's right.
That are protesting in your Democratic neighborhood.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Right. So.
I'm perfectly okay with
what
it.
you
I'm
get.
perfectly
Yeah.
okay with it. You have to have this kind of abrupt back and forth. I mean, there's a reason why the city of DC had to get rid of their murals for defund the
murals,
police
yeah.
because they were unwilling to allow pro-police organizations to do their own murals.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
they got rid of them?
They had to get rid
They
of
them?
They had to spend almost, I think it was like,
Yeah, and
it
at
was
that point, it's a
few
First Amendment issue.
Yeah, it was a few
because
million
people sued and
dollars.
said, well, we want to do one.
Sure.
Is that what
Yeah.
happened?
Kind of like what happened here in Tampa.
Yeah, people sued. Oh, did Tampa get rid of theirs too?
Well, I don't think they got rid of the ones
They
that were
allowed
out
it.
there, but they had to allow the pro-police one that they put downtown.
Oh, right.
And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
Tampa is somewhat of a hybrid when it comes to a
Yeah.
blue city,
I love that. That's
because
great, though.
because Hillsborough, because Tampa technically
Don't you love the First
is going to increase their police budget by $13 million.
Wow.
So it's a hybrid.
That's
It
not
definitely
very
is
woke.
not.
I don't know, man.
Well, that's the big. That's the
very woke.
Well, that's the big. A lot of your far progressive liberal Democrats, are in a quandary, right? Because they thought that they were going to get this very progressive mayor in Jane Castor, but she's one of them. She's a police officer. She's a police chief. Yeah, of course. So she's not going to A, defund the police, or B, keep their budgets the same. Of course she's going to give them more money, more resources, because
Sad thing
those
is,
are.
she's probably trying to be reasonable and is stuck in between a rock and a hard place, right? Because
Yeah.
she's got unreasonable voters.
But then- yeah.
She's got a
Sure.
far left wing that's not gonna.
Yeah, well,
let
and
her
again,
be
like
reasonable.
those activists, they hate the chief of police here in Tampa. They hate Bob Galtieri.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, I'm surprised that Chronister. I think what saved him was maybe that he was a little too relaxed on some of that protesting activity. But I know for a fact a lot of those progressive activists hate Chief Duggan here in Tampa. Because again, he hasn't really been one to succumb, and try to be politically correct about what they have been up to in regards to damaging businesses and being an obstruction to the people that live here.
I mean, when the whole situation broke out at the Hillsborough County jail off of Orient, I wanted Cronster really to go in there and break some heads. But at the end of the day, he understands the county. He understands what the people are wanting more than we are, honestly.
Yeah.
And so he needs to be the sheriff for all Hillsborough residents. And even though that was probably the most upset I was.
You're talking about when they went to the jail.
When they went to the jail that was housing the protesters, and they were trying to, they were demanding the protesters to be released, and they were trying to get into the jail.
Anibal, I might need your help someday.
I was upset.
We might need to rely on each other.
I
someday,
was
dude.
upset.
All right, on that note, thank you everybody for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Again, please like, share, comment, follow. Thank you to everybody who's been really active in our comment section. Hector, as always. Chef Gaston, how you doing, my friend?
Hey,
Meredith.
Yeah, my buddy Billy Mitchell, who somebody else who we need to get on the show. Yeah.
From Billy in a long time.
Billy
Laura,
is a
Mrs. Stewart.
He heard us
you
talking
know.
smack about the Air Force.
So thank you everybody for watching.
Never.
Don't forget the audio
One more
version
thing?
of our podcast. You can take it with you wherever you want to go.
One more thing.
But make sure you subscribe to the audio version of our podcast on our tech overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. You can find the audio version there very, very easily, regardless of your device. All right. We forgot to do this last week, and Anibal got on me, and thankfully he reminded me about it this week. And so, we'll start with Anibal since he reminded me. What's the one story you're watching right now that we didn't get to tonight?
So the story I'm watching is actually a economic story. It is the margin calls that were issued for.
Such a nerd.
It was the margin calls
Would you expect any less?
that were issued for two companies on Friday that actually the devaluation, which was Discovery, the credit card, and Zoom. Those two stocks plummeted significantly, and there was no market to purchase new ones because they were artificially being held up because of margin calls. Basically, watch the short call a few years ago, and it'll replay what happened over the weekend. So I'm really
watching
excited.
Billions right now, so I'm.
Billions is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
So somebody boosted up Zoom and is taking them down there?
So
Is that
a
it?
Chinese investor from actually purchased a large amount of Zoom and Discovery, and then couldn't pay the margin call on Friday, so we had to dump all of it, and that tanked both of them by 30%. So people that were in it for the long haul
Which
lost a lot of.
probably triggered a lot of automatic trades.
Yes,
And
then
it just
those
snowballs from there.
trades couldn't be covered, and so that caused more of a ripple effect. And so our banks were a lot more leveraged this time. We're not as leveraged,
Yeah.
and we're more capitalized, so it didn't cause a trickle effect that broke the entire economy.
Buy some Zoom.
Don't buy
Joe,
Zoom.
what story are you watching?
I mean, I don't really want to watch it, but I guess it's going to be George Floyd's trial.
Right.
Not George Floyd's trial, the officer's trial.
I don't think there's. Again, kind of going back to what we were just talking about. I don't think there's any way that ends positively, one way or the other.
No.
Doesn't matter what
there's
happens.
no.
If he gets full, if he doesn't get a big enough charge or is acquitted, there's going to be riots and mayhem in the streets. And if he's convicted of the highest charge that he has, there'll be celebratory mayhem and riots in the streets.
Not like in Iraq.
So either way.
Like an Iraq light.
Yeah.
How about you, Travis? What stories have you been watching?
Well, I'm gonna
prop up your story. Talk about the big story you're going to be talking about on the radio tomorrow.
yeah.
you mean the new Florida State bird?
That's right.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what new news we have. I'm still trying to talk to Marion Hammer about it. Apparently, she loves the mockingbird. Her emails haven't been incredibly kind. Just putting it mildly. So far, but I'm hoping that we can bridge that gap.
And
And
that
let
she
her
was
work
an
on
aviary
more
fan.
important
What's
issues.
happening?
All right.
It's
So Travis is trying to.
Yeah, we're
Travis
talking this right now.
New state bird. Basically.
Which bird do you want, Travis?
You know.
I don't have a pick.
Yes, you
We're gonna
do.
let kids
The flamingo.
vote. No,
I want
K
the
through
flamingo.
12 kids.
Flamingo.
He wants the flamingo. K through 12 kids are going to get a chance to vote. This was a story I walked into. So Jack Harris on 970 FLA. I know you.
Oh, yeah, he
listen, right?
walked through it.
Great show in the mornings. I'm tuning in all the time, and I have clients on there regularly. And Jack wanted just to do this competition where we take nominations, and then the kids get to vote. K through 12 kids, students in Florida, get to vote on the Florida State bird. I thought this is a great idea, right?
Sure, yeah.
Let's go ahead. I'm gonna do my best to help. Jack out with this. I put up a website, New Florida State Bird, and I told Jack on my first interview, I said, we're going to find out who loves the mockingbird.
Right.
And we did. and that happens to be the most powerful lobbyist in Tallahassee, arguably,
yeah.
certainly.
Well,
but I think maybe,
not an understatement.
maybe she's been around so long that she can't distinguish friend from foe, because I was nominated, or excuse me, I earned an A+ rating by the NRA when I ran for office. I am. You won't hear me get on this show and talk about how
Isn't it funny though how
road
like,
our NRA.
like what people get worked up about, like kind of left wing, like just out of the blue stuff that you never knew that they would be like really absurdly
I'm not at all surprised.
passionate
I've
about.
been around long enough to not be surprised by this, but I'll tell you, I think if she fixates on this, it could make her look a little small. We need to be focused on those bigger issues, right, that impact our
So,
Second Amendment
are
rights.
the nominees for the new state bird that you're talking about? Will that bird will have to be a native bird of Florida?
Right now, it's just a grassroots
Because like the
movement.
flamingo would make sense, but like that's not a Florida bird.
Yeah, but
the
it's-
American eagle is.
But it's the flashiest
There
bird.
are lots of great options to be our Florida State bird. Besides
What's the
that-
little one that we were talking about on the beach?
Besides the mockingbird that keeps dive bombing me when I go to my trash can.
No,
I don't want to
it's a
see.
scrub
I call it the landfill bird. It's like I don't want the bird at the beach who poops on me to be in the
No,
state.
it's the little. tiny
They're
one.
like
Scrub
terrorists.
Yeah, they just
No,
didn't terrorize
there's
you.
okay. So that's the preferred pick of many on the left. Now that was some sort of political play, and I think that's really what got in Marion's craw. That they wanted to carve out habitat. They were looking for some kind of special protections for the bird. This isn't a political thing. We just want a great big science and civics and biology project for the kids of the state of Florida to get a chance to pick a bird that's, if not endemic to the exclusively only to Florida, like the scrub jay, a bird that's maybe more reflective of its character that we picture, whether it be a version of the pelican or seagull or
Flamingo!
the roseate spoonbill. Which,
Da.
I was out golfing with Aaron Jacobs from 970 FLA this weekend.
Plug.
We saw ospreys, hawks, roseate spoonbills, which I
I like the sandhill cranes. We see them a lot in
we
East
saw
County.
one fly up into the
that's a good
tree on our second hole. Literally, a sandhill crane flew up into the pine tree, which I've actually never seen.
Oh, they're
I've seen
amazing.
them- I've seen them walking around in
And
the
they get
yard at my
together and
mom's
mate for
house.
life, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
they're
cool, too.
really cool. I actually voted for.
So we'll be pushing for
that.
Look at
monogamy.
you finding the conservative angle.
Make for life. I voted for
Well,
the
whereas
sandhill
most
crane.
birds are just out there, doing their
Philandering
The
like
sandhill
Fort
crane,
Lauderdale
they
and
get together,
Miami-Dade
they
County.
They walk around your little cookie cutter neighborhood together.
Yeah.
They're not
Right.
I
afraid
love
of
them.
you.
They're very suburban.
They're not afraid of you
During
or
the
your
Depression
car.
in Florida, they were also a food source, but
Wow.
I don't want to get too concerned.
Bringing it down. Now we're gonna have all the
they're a
bird
great
lovers.
bird. I love them.
Yes.
I actually voted for that one, but I don't have a
Dog
bird
in
in
the.
this hunt. Whatever. I gotta to turn a phrase there. So, newfloridastatebird.com, and we're going to push this out. iHeartRadio is involved in it, and they have a lot of radio stations in Florida. I hope they'll support it and continue to support it. And who knows, maybe I think Evan Donovan is supposed to have a story coming out here soon. He actually came on the air, did sort of a reverse interview of Jack Harris on the air on radio, and he's going to use portions of that in his TV story. So that'll be our first TV story. The Tampa Bay Times has called me about it, and so we're talking to him. But I think maybe they want to see a fight between me as a conservative and Marion. And if she keeps sending me ugly emails, she's probably going to get her, they're going to get their wish on that. I've been very kind.
What's her deal with the Mockingbird?
Overly kind. She wrote a bunch of talking points like Joe apparently is on over here. It defends its nest, and she talked about how the scrub jay eats its own eggs and all this. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a what do you call a bird person? What's
a Democrat? I don't know.
Avian specialist?
Something like that. I mean, I know a snake
Democrat.
person is like a herpetologist.
she's
I don't know what.
She's trying to find a bird.
Herpetologist?
She's trying to find a bird that, if it was a human, it would be like a gun enthusiast. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
That's how you win over the population.
I'm pretty sure all birds
Coming-
are like anti-gun.
Coming from the person who's advocated for duck hunting.
Anti-shotguns.
I don't know, but
And-
again, I have been someone who's
Anti-shotguns.
never
Whale
waffled.
hunting.
I've never waffled on our Second Amendment rights. I won't. I told her in the email, I won't. It's not going
Birds
to
are
change.
anti-shotgun. How
But-
could she even care about it?
Right?
Birds are anti-shotgun, so why would Marion Hammer be interested in that?
Yeah.
I'm going to come back at her, though, if she doesn't
They're pro-pistol
loosen
rifle.
up a little bit. on this.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So this is it's funny though. I told someone, I was like, you watch someone. I knew I was going to walk into a buzzsaw, and I did it anyway. You live in. I'm getting older now, and I still just haven't learned my lesson, I guess.
And with that,
Yeah. All right. Well, and it literally just like slipped my mind. There's a piece of legislation that also came out this past week from Tallahassee. That was kind of a big win, and right now I'm having trouble remembering it. So I think we're gonna have to leave that. I know.
giving you brainwave.
I know. We're going to have to probably just wait for next time. But again, thank you to everybody for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. On behalf of Travis Horn, Joe Wicker, and Anibal Cabrera, Jonny Torres, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bah, bah, bah.